Since the dawn of time, mankind has been destined to constantly fight over meaningless things. Wealth, fame, power, whether shonen manga is better than seinen manga, many such cases. I've covered a lot of different series on this channel, and as such, I'm no stranger to the argument surrounding shonen and seinen manga. But what exactly is shonen and what exactly is seinen? What's the difference between the two? Which is better? Well, you see, it's just demographics. That's all it is. For the past decade or so, I've seen countless people on social media lambast the manga for being a shonen, claiming that true works of art can only be found in seinen. It's stupid. It do not matter. None of this matters. You look up shonen versus seinen on YouTube, and you get waves of thumbnails of One Piece and Berserk. Newsflash, buddy, I can cherry pick series to fit my argument too. It really is dumb and pointless, and I think you're doing yourself a disservice by refusing to read a manga due to its target demographic. But at the same time, I think it's also good to indulge in media that, falls into your age range as well. I know that show Bluey is real popular despite being a kid's show, but I've also seen grown adults just watch Bluey and refuse to watch age-appropriate stuff, and look, what you choose to do with your free time is up to you. I'm not going to dictate what you can or can't do, but I legit think you should broaden your horizons and try stuff outside your comfort zone. But anyways, let's talk about some manga real quick. Shonen literally translates to boy in Japanese, with shonen manga being boys' comics. And in a similar vein, shoujo means girl, and shoujo manga is girls' comics. If a boy reads a shoujo, he won't spontaneously combust, and the same goes for girls reading shonen. But see, non-binary people are lucky because they can read anything. The idea of gendered manga existed since the dawn of time, aka the 1900s, through the magazine Shonen Sekai, even though it targeted both guys and girls, despite the name having shonen in it. Also, at the same time, the editors were like, hey, wait a minute, most of our stuff probably only appeals to guys, which resulted in shoujo magazines debuting in 1902. Seinen manga, by comparison, became popularized in a post-World War II Japan in the late 60s/early 70s. Many manga at the time followed a simple art style, which could best be compared to simple Disney and Warner Bros. Cartoons at the time. And as the times changed, once shonen authors saw themselves following the wave of gekiga art, it led to more dynamic and realistic art being produced, as opposed to the aforementioned cartoony manga art. Many mangaka who were once shonen authors ended up finding themselves producing seinen manga, but that did not stop shonen authors from going crazy at the time, however. Let me introduce our boy, Go Nagai, and he made a whole lot of influential series, such as Mazinger and Devilman. Yeah, you probably know Devilman. It got a surge in popularity back in 2018 due to the excellent modern-day adaptation, Devilman Crybaby by Masaki Yuasa. And anyone here who has seen that series can tell you that it's kind of dark and really violent and graphic, and it also happens to be a shonen. Yes sir, Devilman was originally published in Weekly Shonen magazine back in 1972. Now, mind you, at this point in time, seinen magazines already existed, but Nagai was like, nah, I want to publish this in Weekly Shonen magazine, let's just see what happens. It's a bloodbath of a series that is vehemently anti-war, and Crybaby did a great job of carrying that essence by showcasing that maybe man is really the real devil. Devilman rocks, and if you look it up on Wikipedia, it's categorized as both shonen and seinen. Hey, what's up with that? Well, actually, it's because Devilman, while initially a shonen, would go on to seinen magazines with spin-offs such as Devilman Saga. And Devilman isn't the only case of a series going from shonen to seinen, as one of the most popular examples around is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. It's weird to think that the first 6 parts of the series were all once a part of Weekly Shonen Jump. In the early 1990s, I was not alive, so I wasn't able to read the issues, but it was probably insane to see Dragon Ball running alongside JoJo. Hell, JoJo was in Weekly Shonen Jump until 2004, meaning it ran alongside Naruto, One Piece, Yu Yu Hakusho, and more. Time is weird, dude. Anyways, the series moved to Ultra Jump in 2005, and Araki seems to be having a blast, with fantastic parts like Steel Ball Run, JoJo Lands, and JoJolion. But wait a minute, you may ask, what about Weekly Shonen Jump? That's the magazine everyone seems to know. And as fate would have it, the magazine with Shonen in its name is actually aimed towards young boys and teens. Shonen Jump has been kicking it back since August 1st of 1968, where it was originally released bi-weekly before switching over to a weekly format a year later. Since then, the magazine has gone on to release champions of the shonen realm, such as being Roboko, I'm From Japan, Boruto, and that's it. It goes without saying that Jump has had a huge impact on not just the manga industry, but the world as a whole. One Piece is one of the biggest media franchises on the face of the planet, and Kimetsu no Yaiba produced the highest grossing Japanese film ever. There's a lot of prestige that comes with being published in Jump, given the sheer popularity of both the magazine and the series that run in it. But it's also hellish and notorious for driving the health of mangaka to the ground. It's not just Jump though, as mangaka are often worked to the bone in order to adhere to tight weekly schedules, but I won't go over that in this video. I might make a video sometime in the future where I talk about how mangaka are treated, because it is a pretty important issue. I mentioned that Jump is mad popular with global appeal, and as with many popular things, you're bound to get haters that hate it for being popular. So I'm going to be speaking from personal experience here. I've had both a Facebook and a Twitter account for nearly a decade. In fact, the only reason why I even made a Facebook account back in 2012 was to find people to talk about One Piece with. And as such, I was exposed to all sorts of groups, pages, and people that were all focused on anime and manga. I was 14 when I made my account, and I noticed a lot of teenagers my age had this disdain towards shonen manga for some reason. I specify teenagers because a lot of adults I knew at the time loved shonen. They loved One Piece and Bleach and Fullmetal Alchemist, but for some reason the teens were all into seinen. They'd say shonen is for little baby boys, whereas seinen showcases the dark depths of humanity and how evil mankind can truly be. As an impressionable teenager, I was like, oh, okay, I guess I gotta give up One Piece and just read Depression, I guess. And I did just that. I read this one manga called Homunculus that was a mess and a half, but I liked some parts about it. It's funny though, because when I was reading it at the time, the scans I had only got up to halfway of the manga. So I got to the halfway point and it was like, oh, okay, I guess the manga's over now. I still never got back and finished it. I didn't even bother. There was also Hinamatsuri, which is unironically fantastic, and I still recommend to anyone who would give it a shot. It has a fantastic anime adaptation too. That's the one seinen I don't regret reading as a teenager. It was sentimental, but also really funny, and all the characters were great. And then there was Goodnight Pun Pun. I read this one when I was in my senior year of high school, and this was the manga. This was the one that made me realize just because a manga is labeled as seinen, it does not mean it's going to be good. I'm not going to turn this video into a Pun Pun hate video because that's stupid and also not the point. I mean, hell, I had a bird named Pun Pun too. My biggest problem with Pun Pun, and with a lot of seinen I read at the time, was that it just fell into so much despair and misery that it just became funny. Pun Pun's adult life takes such a nosedive, and sure, there's elements of bad juju throughout his life, but it got to the point where I couldn't help but read this and laugh at the terrible things happening to him. If you were to read one seinen manga by Inio Asano, the mangaka of Pun Pun, I say go read Solanin. It's a much shorter and much better story than Pun Pun could ever hope to achieve. And while I was talking about Pun Pun, I mentioned that a lot of seinen I read at the time fell into so much despair. I specify that because there's this argument that the criers use on both sides of the shonen seinen argument, where people who defend shonen denounce seinen as depressing, want to be, psychological garbage, whereas seinen defenders treat shonen like Nick Jr. Mickey Mouse manga. Look, I've read my fair share of Mickey Mouse manga, but gross generalizations is not the way to go. Berserk and Monster are the poster children of seinen. When I see jabronis on Twitter talk about how deeply psychological seinen are and how they showcase the worst that humanity has to offer, they always talk about these two. And sure, Berserk and Monster both got terrible people in their respective series that commit atrocious acts, but they also have people trying to live their lives, Berserk, at its core, is a story about hurt people trying to live and move on with their lives despite everything that has happened. I love Guts, I love his party, I love the dynamic. The Golden Age, rocked, but part of what made it great was Guts' interactions with the Bandit of Huck. Painting the series as a revenge fantasy and painting Guts as this one-dimensional loner character that people use as their icon on Twitter and say it is what it is and all that garbage, it's dumb and it's a disservice to the series. Miura himself straight up said Berserk had elements of shoujo manga, which, might I remind you, is aimed towards young girls. These labels are dumb, they're meaningless. Mangaka can get inspiration from any manga and convey it how they seem fit. Monster has terrible human beings and one of the most iconic antagonists in the medium, but it also has some of the sweetest characters you'll ever see. Whenever someone tries telling you Monster is so evil and twisted and shows how bad mankind truly is, I ask that you show them the scene where a fugitive Dr. Tenma is picked up by an American hitchhiker who offers him a free ride and meal with no ulterior motives. Or the scene where a waiter at a restaurant gives Tenma free food when she sees how disheveled he looks. Look, humanity can be evil, it can be twisted, it can be foul, but it can also be kind and loving, and it's not right to grossly generalize. So then what? What about shonen manga then? Look, I can't even joke, not all shonen manga are mindless like Dragon Ball and Naruto, because that's dumb as hell, and demeaning as hell, and doing a disservice to the multitude of somber moments that both series have. Oftentimes, shonen naysayers will use the argument of shonen manga is about teenage male protags using the power of friendship to save the world. But no? Right off the bat, I can think of Akane Banashi, Sakamoto Days, Jujutsu Kaisen, and Chainsaw Man as 4 shonen that are a part of Jump that do not fit that description. Akane is about a teenage girl who becomes a rakugo artist to avenge her father, who is wrongfully terminated from the game. Sakamoto Days is about a retired hitman who falls in love but is forced back into the game after a hit is called on him. And Jujutsu Kaisen and Chainsaw Man are about teenage boys going to hell. Do the characters in these series have friends? I mean, I guess, yeah, they do. But they also have enemies, they have trials and tribulations that they all got across. I never read Attack on Titan, but I know the fans love to parade the series around as a seinen disguised as a shonen, and I can't comment on that, but do they mean that it's because it has mature storytelling? Cause that's possible in anything, regardless of target demographic. The Iron Giant is a children's movie about a kid during the Red Scare befriending a big old robot, and that film has had more mature storytelling than most of the MCU. It doesn't matter who the demographic is, if there's good content to be found, then good God, it will be found. Dennis from Chain Boy has been compared to a seinen protag in terms of his desires and motivation, and I get where those folk are coming from, but I just think Denji's a great protagonist regardless of the target demographic of his series. Instead of appreciating manga for what they are, folk argue about meaningless things and disregard series simply due to the target audience. One Piece is almost 30 years old and it's a shonen. What, do you expect the kids who grew up on One Piece to automatically stop reading once they're an adult? You think they're gonna combust? It's stupid. A good story can be appreciated by anyone, regardless of age, gender, or background. It doesn't matter if a series is outside your target demographic, you can enjoy it for what it is. At the same time, I also implore you to check out stuff catered to your age group, because you might find some stuff that really hits home. I hated Pon Pon as a teenager, but maybe as an adult I can love it? Probably not, but I loved Seinen, which was written by the same guy, and I read that back in August, so really who knows. At the end of the day, manga is art, anime is art, and art makes you feel something. You can categorize art as for kids or for adults, but it can still make everyone feel something. I read through Bleach back in 2021 as a grown adult, and I loved that series. Its target demographic is young teens, and I genuinely beat myself up for refusing to read it as a teenager because back then I thought I was too mature for dumb kiddie shonen. You only live once until the cycle of samsara takes its toll, so until then, read what you want, just have fun. Don't let stupid labels dictate what you can or can't enjoy, and for the love of God, don't pretend to like series that you don't care about just to seem cool online. The only person you should impress is yourself, bro. Just love yourself and love what you consume. Go play Shenmue or something, have a blast, and take it easy. And on that note, this has been Ash. Thank you guys so much for making it to the end of the video. Big thank you to my patrons, Is a Polaroid, Joe Papa 73, Sarah Lolita, Borpus Bunny, Real Septori, Loose, Venti, Sea Crowns, Kiwi, Sneaky the New Guy, V, Andrew, Audrey, Braystar, Sogon, Ongong, Amatiramisu, Bogan, Sianaru, Jiva, and Chelsea. Thank you guys all so much for your continued support. I love all you guys, and take it easy.